In my current streams and videos that I've been uploading recently, I've kind of let my age show just a little bit, considering the games that I've never played before and the games that I have played before. And I know like everyone's playing games like Roblox and Minecraft and all these things, but I've never played those because I remember a simpler time, a time when everything was much, much better and so much more simple that it just brought joy to everyone's faces because we didn't have much growing up. We just had a little like PS2 or Xbox 360, and we just came home from school and played all these games together. It was just the greatest time ever. So I decided I'm gonna make a tier list of every single game that I can think of from my childhood, and this is like pre 2010. I think that's like a more appropriate because that's I think when gaming really took off. So we're just gonna get into it here. So Spider-Man 1. Oh, yeah. I just want to show. I labeled it as kind of like this is peak childhood, which I think everyone would agree was like the best time in their life to play this game. And it's still like a perfect game today. Still a solid game. I would say this is a game that's just, it's still memorable. It's not the very, very best game, but it's still something that I'm sure everyone would still play. Average, nothing too major. Still memorable, but it's kind of like a one and done kind of deal. You still remember it, but you don't really need to play it that much anymore. Fun as a kid, not as an adult. Obviously, we were all very young, so we couldn't really tell a good game from a bad game at that point. And this is just me, personally, for games that I was never really a fan of. So, let's just get into it. So, Spider-Man 1. This is the Tobey Maguire games. I think I put it in still a solid game. There was 3 games that came from this, but it kind of got better as time went on. They were still the same formula going forward, but I think in terms of like the gameplay and the story time, like the story of the games, it kind of just got better as time went forward, so I kind of leave it there. Dance Dance Revolution Max 2. This is a game I used to play all the time because I used to have the mat that you had plugged into the PlayStation. I think this is kind of hard because no one really has the mats anymore. I think I'll say that this is still a solid game. If you had the mat growing up, it was just so memorable. You were just having the best time of your life, even with the other DDR games. And now it's kind of evolved into something that's not this. So it's still like peak like childhood memorabilia for me. So I'm gonna leave it there. Spyro, fucking peak childhood. Everyone should have played Spyro growing up. It is almost one of like the top 10 games of the early 2000s and the 90s that I think everyone loved like dearly, especially because then there was the time with cheat codes. So everyone would just play a bunch of these games and just put in cheat codes to do a bunch of fun stuff. Okay, moving on. Uncharted Drake's Fortune. This was a good game. I liked it. I don't really replay it as much. I think it's about average. It's a good solid game. I think it got better as time went forward. So I think it's a good spot right here. It's kind of like in the middle kind of deal. Okay, moving on. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Well, I love the story. I think that's like one of the good things Kingdom Hearts had. Well, as confusing as it was, but I think I'm gonna put this in average just because the story's great, but the battle system just sucked. And then they remade it for the PS2, which was kind of great, but at the same time it kind of sucked because they kept the same card battling system, which I don't know why they did that. It seems very, very odd. And it was kind of just revisiting doing the same thing you did in the first game. It's just adding a little bit of story to it, saying like you're losing your memories. That's kind of it. So I'm gonna leave it there. Sonic Heroes. Oh, this is a good game. It's good. It's a fun game, but it's very, very broken as hell. I think depends on which like version you play it in. I think for the early Sonic games, they were kind of a bit tedious at times. So I think it's still a solid game. I think that's a good place to put it. I think Sonic Heroes is one of the better games in terms of just pure gameplay, but it was just something about it. It's kind of, I think they just introduced all these new characters too, for different teams. It was just kind of repetitive, but actually no, I'm gonna put it average. I think Sonic Heroes is one of on the lower spectrum of the fan favorite Sonic games. Fallout 3. I think it's a solid game. I think a lot of people still play it, to be completely honest with you, because I look at some forums and stuff like that, and they always reference the main ones like Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas, stuff like that. So I think if it's still talked about today, I consider it to still be a solid game. Although this is more just my opinion for these. God of War. This is God of War 3. This was a peak game growing up. In fact, you know what? Where are they? Yeah, here we go. I'm putting all of the God of War games in the peak childhood era, just because I think what God of War did better than any game was the continuity of it. Because you went from 1, and then it continued on to 2, and then 2 ended, and God of War 3 continued off right where 2 ended. It was the perfect revenge story. I think storytelling, combat, it was just perfect. I don't think any game could top what it was going for. It was just a pure power fantasy trip, and it just succeeded in everything it ever did. And it's still playable today. People still replay it constantly. So I think these 3 just deserve to be up here just for the sake of the argument saying it's just such a good game. Okay, moving on. Infamous. This was about an average game, I would say. It was kind of a predecessor to all those Telltale games, I would think, where you can kind of either be the good guy or the bad guy, which was kind of an interesting concept. I liked it. It was kind of fun, and then they kind of got, I think this game was better than their sequels, because it kind of just set the bar for everything, and then they just wanted to cash grab it and try and get more out of it by making other games. So I think it's a good spot right here. It's about average, still fun to play, but it's not really as memorable as some of the other ones. Okay, Sonic Riders. This was, when I played it, it was 2008, I think. So I had fun playing as a kid, but when I played it as an adult, it's just not as fun. It's just, I feel like it's just Team Sonic Racing all over again, but with skateboards, which is kind of dumb, I think. I know I think everyone likes these, Jet and all the other characters, but I don't know. I don't think it's that much of a fun game as what I thought it was before, even though the music's still good. Okay, moving on. Over the Hedge. This was fun as a kid, but not as an adult. It was it was in that weird era of all these movies getting made into games that, they were just capitalizing on that because they were so popular, so they decided to just make the video game versions of this. So I remember the Over the Hedge. I think that was a good movie, honestly. And then they made a video game about it, and because I was just a little kid, I didn't really fully grasp it because I was just playing the movie and over again. And they kind of just, all these movie games are kind of the same formula. You just go, follow a trail, and then you move on. That was about it. Well, I wouldn't expect much. It's a kid's game. But yeah, I think it was fun as a kid. I remember the go-karts mini-games being super fun, but other than that, though, I don't see myself playing as an adult. Ooh, Beyond Good and Evil, that's a freaking peak childhood game. Everyone loved this game. It was so good. It was so original, so unique. I loved it to death. If you've never played Beyond Good and Evil, I don't think you've ever played a really solid game. I know the combat was, not the best, but the storytelling was just so good. And I think it won Game of the Year too. So yeah, Beyond Good and Evil, solid game. Would recommend playing it. It's so fun. Just keep doing it. Moving on, Batman Arkham Asylum. Man, rest in peace to the GOAT. Dude, I gotta give it to this because the Arkham games were such a successful like series, and this was like the first one of all of it. It was perfect. It was so cool. I think it was like the best way to make a Batman game, honestly. It was like you got what was it? You had like the best voice actors. You had Kevin Conroy, rest in peace to him. You had Mark Hamill, who played honestly the greatest Joker I think you'll ever hear, in my opinion. And it was just such a fun game. It had like all the scares and everything. I was scared as a kid when I played it because I was just always terrified of the Scarecrow boss fights and the Killer Croc fight. But it's a very solid game. Not gonna lie, it's one of the best games ever made. So I would go check that out. BioShock. I liked it. I think a lot of people liked it. I think it's still a solid game. It's something I like still come back to every once in a while, but when I think of classic games, I don't think BioShock is the first one to come to mind. So it was very unique, you know, city underwater, you're fighting a horde of people who are just doped up with superpowers. It's honestly one of the great games that I think everyone should play at least once. Not BioShock 2 though, that game kind of sucked ass, and to some extent BioShock Infinite, but that's kind of another story. I think BioShock was just great as it is. So I'll leave it with that. Bloxors. If you never played cool math games as a kid, you do not know what you're missing out on. Bloxors was the peak game. It was just so fun. I remember playing it every time when I was in the library at my elementary school and just putting in the code for the last level and just like doing it as fast as I can. That was the greatest time of my life. I think everyone who's played Bloxors knows what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna put that one there. Club Penguin. That's a very specific childhood kind of game. I think Club Penguin was a solid game for when it came out. It kind of sucked when they shut down all the servers and, you know, no one could play it anymore. But I think there was just like a community that really like enjoyed this game. I think it was it Disney? I think it was Disney. I don't really remember. But I played it a lot when I was a little kid. I played it on my computer all the time. And when they like grew everything to like have all these mini games, they had like the ninja stuff. It was fun for what it was. I would still say like it's a solid game that I would have played today, probably if I felt the need to go back to it. But I don't think it's like a game that I would define as my childhood. So I'll leave it there. Wii Sports Resort. I see a lot of people play this one. I think because it's like the successor to Wii Sports. And it did do a very good job, but I'm gonna say it's still still a solid game. I think just because when this game came out, everyone had a Wii at that point. But the reason why, I'll do this real quick just so I can make my point. I think Wii Sports should go above this as like a peak childhood game, just because when the Wii came out, all we had was this game and like Link's shooting, like archery training that came with it. So this game deserves to be up here, I think, like the first Wii Sports, because it was just so iconic. And I think this one, as good as it was, I don't think it hit the same as when the Wii came out and everyone had Wii Sports and was playing this game all the time, because it was just something about it that was magical at the time when you had the Wii, trying stuff with the Wiimote out. It was so cool, especially if you had like the foam bats and stuff that came with this for the games. It was perfect. It was such a fun game. So I think I'm gonna have these two sort of like this, Wii Sports Resort below peak childhood. That way I can at least give Wii Sports the credit it deserves, because it was just so fun when people were little kids, especially if they had just gotten the Wii when it came out. Metroid Prime. do I remember Metroid Prime? I barely remember it. I never really played any of the Metroid games. I think it's still a solid game. I know a lot of people are probably gonna hate me for that, but it's a Metroid game. They remake all those games all the time, so I think it's gonna put it right there. I think this one was like the best one out of all of them, but I think it's a good spot just because a lot of people can still play it. It's just something that it's for everyone, just like certain other games, I would say. I think these games just specifically scream like a certain generation of kids who grew up playing all this. Actually, you know what? I'll put Metroid Prime up here because I think people would agree. Black Ops, ooh, still a solid game. I remember the days. I remember the voice chats. It was just so fun. Call of Duty Black Ops, zombies, it was perfect. Deus Ex, Deus Ex, I think it's still a solid game. I think a lot of people really liked it. I didn't really play it as much. I barely remember any of it. I think it's a solid game. I think like all these story-driven games like have their own little spot in the mix of everything. I know these aren't really that much story-driven, but Deus Ex was a very, very solid game that I think a lot of people enjoyed. Especially, I don't know, some of these games can be hit or miss for some people. So that's kind of like why I'm putting it there. Because all of these games, I feel like this one specifically had a unique, story, everything like that. And it kind of defined a generation. Especially, like, same with this game that everyone was, like, beloved and everything like that. This one's just personal. And Spyro, like, everyone knows Spyro. But I think it just depends on the person playing the game. So I think I'm going to leave it there. Fallout New Vegas. I know what everyone's going to say. They're going to put Peak Childhood because everyone loves Fallout New Vegas. It's one of everyone's favorite games. I liked it. It was fun. So let's do that. Toontown sucked. Don't play Toontown. It was not even, I don't even think it was good. I hated that game. I tried it once and I thought it sucked. World of War. Oh shit, dude. That's a peak childhood game. It was like the predecessor. It was like the catalyst to like everything that happened. It was like the first zombies game. It was just fun playing multiplayer with all your friends on LAN, like doing LAN parties. It was awesome. So I think I'm gonna put it there. Let's see, Battle for Bikini Bottom. I think it was fun as a kid. I don't think I'd play as an adult just because it's like the same formula and over again. Just like jump around, do fetch quests, everything like that. So I'm gonna put that there. Spider-Man 3. I'm gonna put that at peak childhood just because of, the clips that come out of this game. It was so funny. Just that scene where he jumps to save the girl. He just like face plants all over the place. She goes, "I'm going to die." I'll put a clip there.
Help! Please! Someone! I'm going to die!
Yeah, everyone loves that game. I think it was a great game when it came out, so I'm gonna put it there. Guitar Hero. Ooh, that was a good game. That was a really good game, but not everyone had it. So, because it also became an arcade game later on, then everyone played it. I think I'll put it as a solid game. I think it was like a defining generation for people like learning to play the guitar. And it was just, you got to play all the cool rock songs. It was awesome. I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't play it as much as I played it like other games, but I think it was just still memorable. Okay, so moving on. Birth by Sleep from Kingdom Hearts. It's about average. It's the same thing with this. The story was good, but the mechanics was not the best. They took out the freaking command bars and they decided to do just like rechargeable attacks that you can do like for special stuff. It sucked. I didn't really like it all that much, but the story was so good. I mean, I think Terra's story was just him being Anakin Skywalker in episode 3, so that was kind of what happened, and it was a prequel to all the other Kingdom Hearts games, so I'm kind of leaving it there because I think there was a lot better Kingdom Hearts games. Conker's Bad Fur Day. This was iconic as hell. It had the freaking singing poop. So I gotta put Conker's Bad Fur Day. It had so many references, and it was just so not what you expect from a game that looks like this. Because it had like Saving Private Ryan stuff. It was very graphic, a lot of cursing involved, and it was just not meant for kids. So I think when people played it in their like younger days, it was like a nice refresher. So I'll put that there. Kingdom Hearts 2, peak childhood. This was the best game of the Kingdom Hearts games. I think everyone can agree. The combat was a lot better, the story was good, the music was good, it was perfect. It was one of the best games ever made by Square Enix, and I think they did a really good job with that. Because everyone says, like, for Kingdom Hearts, they always say the second one's the best one, and I agree. It's one of the best games I've ever played. I replayed it so much as a little kid. I don't know how many hours I spent coming back from school and just restarting the game, starting a new game. It was the best. Madden. I should clarify this. I think Madden games, like the NFL games, suck. They're the most cookie cutter thing, like cookie cutter games that you can ever think of. Just because it's the same formula over and over again, and they just improve the graphics. That's about it. It's the same thing over and over. They don't change anything. It kind of sucks. So I think Madden, it's going to be, in general. So I'm going to say wasn't a fan because I don't like sports games at all. I think they kind of suck. Tenkaichi 3, I think that's the best Dragon Ball game ever. I know people will probably say that the new game, I forget what it's called, because I didn't play it. People say that one's good, but I don't think you can say that unless you've played Tenkaichi 3, because this game, it created so many memories back in the day when you're just sitting in your living room, you plugged it in like either your Xbox or your PS2, and you got to do like all the GT stories, you got to play with your friends, you did like the key energy blast attacks. It was so cool. It defined a generation of Dragon Ball Z games that I think everyone should have played. And if you didn't, you really, really missed out because it was just such a perfect game. So I think it's better than any of the other Dragon Ball Z games to date. So yeah, that's why I'm going to put it at peak childhood. SingStar. If you don't know what SingStar was, it was like one of those music games where you just, karaoke. So I'm going to say it was fun as a kid, not as an adult. So I'm just going to leave it there. Luigi's Mansion. I didn't really play this. I think I'm going to put it as about average. Maybe people will come at me in the comments for that, but I don't really care. I never really saw the appeal in Luigi's Mansion. I think Luigi's like one of the better characters in the Mario verse, but I never played the games. And when I saw it, I was kind of like, it's not really for me. I don't think it's for everyone either. So I'm gonna leave it there. Kingdom Hearts 1. Oof. I think it's still a solid game. Like I said, Kingdom Hearts 2 just improved on Kingdom Hearts 1 and made it like even better than it was before. Because Kingdom Hearts 1 was still janky, especially if you play on the PS2 version, the original version, where the camera was not the best and everything was just like janky. It was kind of blocky movements. You were kind of slow in that regard. And it was a hard game, so I think I'm going to leave it here and give Kingdom Hearts 2 the spotlight. Okay, Lego Star Wars video games. Ooh, these are good too. I did like the Lego Star Wars games. This is like the original ones. I think I'll give this an average, just because Lego Star Wars was fun. I think the problem with the Lego games is just, it's kind of the same formula and over again. I already said this before, but I don't really think Lego Star Wars had like the best. Well, it was very, very fun. They did like a bunch of good stuff, well done, but I think it's like best is like put in the middle compared to like other Star Wars games that I have on here. So I'll leave it there. Prince of Persia, freaking peak childhood game. Everyone loves that game. You need to play that game. It's awesome. It's one of the best games ever made. Just go play it. Force Unleashed. Ooh, that's a good one. Dude, Force Unleashed was fucking fire as fuck. Sheesh, I don't want to like be biased towards all of these, but damn. I think Force Unleashed 2 is better, honestly. I'm gonna put this as a solid game. I don't think I put Force Unleashed 2 on this list, but if I did, I'll put it right up Peak Childhood. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. It's going Peak Childhood, because you know why? Force Unleashed was kick ass. You got to be the villain in the game. It was awesome. Okay, moving on. Sonic Unleashed. Fucking as fun as a kid. I liked it when I was a little kid. I thought it was fun, but then when you get to like the last games, it was kind of like, why? It's the Werehog stages sucked. The last stages were almost impossible. I think you need to be like a little kid to just like appreciate it. So I think I'll just leave it there. So yeah, Sonic Unleashed, that's what you get. Max Payne. Ooh. Max Payne was solid. That's a peak childhood game. Everyone, I think, loved Max Payne. Especially just because it's Max Payne. This is like one of those games that you need to play, I think. It was very cool storytelling. The combat was so cool. It was awesome. Knights of the Old Republic, that's also a peak childhood game. I think everyone played that. So, best Star Wars game, I think, in my opinion. Sims 3, I don't like the Sims games. I don't think they're that fun. It's kind of just build a life and you're just living life. That's pretty much what it is. Uncharted 2, I think it was about average. I kind of think the Uncharted games were pretty much average at that point. Modern Warfare 3, I'm not really much of a first-person shooter type game. I'll say Modern Warfare 3 was like still a solid game. I'm gonna scroll this out a bit. It was fun. Like the in-game lobbies were like terrible, but I think it was still a solid game. So I'll just leave it at that. Portal, that was actually a very unique game. I think it's a solid game. I'll leave it at that. Nice little puzzle game. It's very unique. Got to try different things out. Final Fantasy VII. That's a fucking banger. I love that game to death. It's one of my favorite games ever made. I've always said, the day I get married, I want my bride to walk down the aisle to Tifa's theme, because Tifa is the greatest fucking video game waifu ever. Changed my mind on that. She is a freaking badass, and she's hot. So yeah, I'm pretty biased towards it, but I love Final Fantasy VII. I think everyone loved that game. It's like the best Final Fantasy game. Pop Tropica, I wasn't really a fan of this game. I never played it. I know you were either a Club Penguin kid or a Pop Tropica kid, and in some cases you were a Toontown kid. But yeah, I think it was just not as good for me. This is all my opinion, so just take it with a grain of salt. Team Fortress 2, I think it's still a solid game. I don't play it as much, so I'm gonna leave it there. I know everyone just like likes it for the memes, but I think it has to be like very, very impactful for me to like put it in a peak childhood game, so I'll leave it there. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, fucking dumb. I'm gonna put it there just because it sucks. Sonic 06, it was I don't want to talk about it. It sucks. I'm sorry, Sonic fans, but you know I'm right. Star Wars Bounty Hunter, oh, this was a good game too. I'm gonna put it as a solid game. It's not a game I played very often, but as a game I played, and I still liked it for what it was, so I'll leave it here. It's still a solid game. I'm kind of going through these pretty fast, but I gotta do this. Roller Coaster Tycoon. Ooh. It was fun it was about average. I liked that game. I think it was kind of fun. Mario Galaxy. Damn, this is a good game. I think it was one of the best Mario games in my opinion. Especially like when it came out on the Wii. It was very unique combat. It was fun. It had a lot of replayability, so I'll put it there. Twilight Princess. A solid game. I'll put it there. GTA 4. Oh, that's a good one too. I think it's still a solid game. I think some of the other games did a little bit better than this one, so I'll put it there. Jak and Daxter, that's a solid game. I'll still give it that. Space Cadet Pinball, fucking peak. I think everyone can agree that if you play this game on your, little computer, Windows 98 edition, it's perfect. This is the best game to play after school. Whenever you came home and you just like turned on your little tower PC, and then you hear the dun dun, the little Microsoft login sound, and you just play this game. It's perfect. Maybe I'll make a video on it because it got me thinking of just playing this game, so I'll do that. Halo 2. I think this was the best Halo game in my opinion, just because I got to play it so much doing like multiplayer with my brother. So we just like play this over and over again, just doing sniper battles, and me and my friend too. So I think Halo 2 was probably the best of all the Halo games in my opinion. So moving on, Battlefront 2, same thing. It was very, very good. You got the space battles, you got the heroes versus villains teams. These were fun games. These are like the peak games of, the early 2000s, so I'll leave it at that. Spider-Man 2, I'll think it's a solid game. Mario Sunshine, it's about average. I didn't really like it all that much. Brawl, I hated it. It was fun, but I think it was like everyone's least favorite game of all the Smash Brothers games. Majora's Mask, I know where I'm putting this. That's like one of the best Zelda games to date. I think everyone would agree on that, right? Zelda Majora's Mask, freaking great. Final Fantasy X, it's about a solid game. It was so fucking long. It's so long, and it's just, I don't think I could handle it. Final Fantasy was long too. Like Final Fantasy VII was long, but I don't know. I think this game, like, it's still solid. It's a good game, but I don't think it can beat Final Fantasy VII for what it did. Vice City, solid game. I'll give it that. Raging Blast 2 is a very, very good game. I don't think it could beat Budokai Tenkaichi 3, but it's on the right level there. It's very, very close to it. I put it like right on the line between this and that. So I'll do that. Wind Waker. Zelda games were not really my forte, so to speak. It was a good game for me. I think I'm gonna put it average just because it was kind of like this. It was that game like where I think it was Skyward Sword, where it kind of just branches off the timeline to make different games and made Toon Link. Actually, I'll put it as a solid. It's a solid game. I think it's like one of the more unique games from the Zelda franchise. I'll put it there. San Andreas, probably one of the best of the Grand Theft Auto games that I have on here, so I'll put it there. I think everyone would agree on that. So, Mortal Kombat, I think this was 9. This was a fun game. I think fighting games are just like very repetitive, so I think this was like the best one, aside from like Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. But I'll put it as about in the middle, just because it's great, but I think it was just like so repetitive at the time that kind of just, had its own little thing. Red Dead Redemption, everyone knows that game freaking slaps, so I'll put it there. Soul Calibur, this is the only one I found. I didn't have really Soul Calibur or anything like that. It's a fighting game, kind of cookie cutter, so I'm gonna put it as average because I'm not really the fighting game type. Battle for Volcano Island, oof. This game defined, like, if you knew who these characters were. If you didn't grow up with like Danny Phantom or the original Fairly Odd Parents or Jimmy Neutron, you missed out. So I think it's a solid game. I think it's a fun game, like for when you were a kid, especially if you want just like that little nostalgia. So I'll put it there. Resident Evil 4. This is the best of the Resident Evil games, I think. You gotta put it there. It's so fun. So especially with that glitch where he drives away in the jet ski without Ashley. That's the best one. Crash Bandicoot. It was fun, but it was like insanely hard. So I'm gonna put it there. still a solid game. I wouldn't say like define my childhood, but I think it's still a game that I could play. Sonic Adventure 2 though, that's a different story. It deserves to be up here. They brought fucking Shadow the Hedgehog. They had Crush 40. They had City Escape. It's the best of like the original 3D Sonic games in my opinion, and I love it to death. Especially now that I saw Sonic 3 finally. It's amazing. I would recommend anyone play this if they ever have the chance to. It's one of the greatest games of all time. Elder Scrolls 4. Ugh. I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm not a fan of the Elder Scrolls games. So, in my opinion, I think it's about average. It's fun, but I don't really like those kind of open world RPGs games, in my opinion. It kind of just, it's too much. There's so much to do. Birth by Sleep. I don't know, 358 over 2 days. It's about average. It's the same thing again with these. It's the games are like, the stories are so good. This had my favorite story. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. This is going in a solid game. Because although like the combat system and the way they designed the game was poorly made, the story was just so good. And it was so sad. It's just, oh dude. It was like one of my favorite soundtracks of any Kingdom Hearts game. So I think it's a solid game to date. Crazy Taxi. Ooh. I'm gonna say it's a solid game. I don't think it's like not as memorable to me, but I think a lot of people would think it's like a very memorable game just because of how silly it was. So I think Crazy Taxi is perfect, like as a solid game that people can still go back to and play. Okay, World of Warcraft. I fucking hate that game. I don't see the appeal. Everyone who plays that game is just like, I don't know. I've heard the stories about the people who play World of Warcraft, and my god, are they just horrifying. I don't think I could ever do it. So, we're almost done here, actually. Damn, looks like it's been 40 minutes. Okay, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. I'll say it's about average. It was a fun game, but wasn't really my favorite game. I know it's like it's supposed to be like the first Legend of Zelda game, so kind of like split off the timeline between Wind Waker, Majora's Mask, and everything like that. So I'll leave it there. Phantom Hourglass. I hated that Zelda game. It's a sequel to Wind Waker, right? It was a sequel to that, and it kind of sucked. Halo 3. I'm gonna put it as a solid game. It's not as good as Halo 2 in my opinion, so I think that's where it should be. Okami, fucking great game. Oof. I don't think anyone, like a lot of people really played it that much though. It might have been. I liked it a lot, so I'm gonna put it in like my peak childhood games. It was just like, the art style was so good. It was amazing. So I'm gonna put it there. Resident Evil 1. This is a good game. This is a really good game. I like it a lot. It's a very good game. I still think Resident Evil 4 is superior to that than this game, just because of like how tedious it was to like go around and like get everything done. And I guess that's what all Resident Evil games are, but I think Resident Evil 4 still beats it in my opinion, so I'm gonna put it as a solid game. Alright, last 4. NBA 2K, you know how I feel about sports games. They suck. Rock Band, you know what? It's about an average, just because I'm pretty sure it was trying to imitate Guitar Hero, just by adding drums and stuff and lyrics. It combined SingStar and Guitar Hero and just added drums, so I think it kind of just, tried to be something that already existed, and it did well, so I'm going to put it as average. Aragon. Does anyone remember Aragon? Anyone remember the Middle Earth shit? Because I don't. So I'm going to put it as wasn't a fan. And finally, Pokemon Red and Blue. I think it's safe to say it deserves to be a peak childhood. It's still a good game, especially when people are still referring to it to this day. Even like with the new generations coming out, like all the new Pokemon games, I don't think anyone can beat, Pokemon Red and Blue. I think it's one of those games that has stood the test of time and just, just made a name for itself. Okay, well, about 40 minutes. These are all about all the games that I could think of. But I think, at the end of the day, these were the games that I kind of grew up on. And I think a lot of people did. So I would say take this with a grain of salt if I put a game in a level that you didn't agree with. But I think these are just the major games that I think everyone probably played early 2000s-ish, and probably in their 20s or 30s now would say that these games were very, very fun. So I'm gonna stop it there. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you want me to make another tier list for other games or just other topics in general, be sure to let me know. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And on that though, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.